welcome to another episode of the Byproduct podcast. I am your host, Ian Prukner, and I'm excited to be with you, spending a few minutes together, getting better together, because when we get better, things get better, right? We get better, things get better. I'm excited to be joined today by a friend of mine. Say his last name 3 times fast, I dare you. But it's Justin Roethlingshoefer. Welcome, Justin. So good to have you here today.
Amazing, Ian. Thank you so much. And you nailed the last name. So you're 1 for 1. You just got to say it 2 more times.
2 more times fast. People would probably pay to see me do that. But I'm excited to have you here. And so Justin is just an absolute powerhouse. Spent 15 years in the NHL as the high performance director, working with all of the pros on enhancing their performance. What a cool thing. We'll get into that a little bit. 3 best-selling books, owner of the Own It podcast and the Own It coaching brand in the physical health and coaching space, multi-7 figures there, right? So you've done a number of different things here. And, you know, one of the coolest things, many of you know, I like to run an annual entrepreneurs marriage retreat. It's called the Relentless Pursuit. And Justin and his wife have taken that to another level with the Couples Collective, a year-long program investing into the lives and marriages of entrepreneurs who happen to be married to each other. And it comes with a host of different challenges than, you know, a normal marriage does. And so I'm super excited. You got so much amazing stuff going on. So Justin, give everybody like the 1-minute version of your story. Who is Justin? Where'd you come from? What are you fired up about? What's going on right now in your life?
Yeah, Ian, I thank you. And the big thing, I was born and raised in Canada, and my entire life I wanted to be in the NHL, I wanted to be a hockey player. That was my dream, that was my goal. And very quickly, I developed a passion for understanding how our bodies worked and how our bodies operated, and realizing that nobody is born as a superhuman. Nobody is born with exceptions to health and awareness and sleep and energy. Nobody is born with just to be a superhuman. No matter whether you're a professional athlete or you're a professional real estate agent, you're going to suffer from the exact same things. And the only thing that differentiates you is how you actually prepare and how you treat your body. And if there was an opportunity for us to be able to interview your body and understand exactly what it needed, why would we not do that? So that we could ultimately do every single thing that we do on a given day with purpose, with intention, something that was meant for you, so that you could ultimately be seen as a superhuman who doesn't fatigue, sleeps great, has constant energy, is vibrant, is clear-minded every single day. And that's what I was able to do for 26 men over the course of 15 years in the National Hockey League and the NCAA, but ultimately wanted to do that for entrepreneurs, because those are the people who are leaning into their God-given talent, God-given potential, and God-given calling. But in pursuit of that was oftentimes costing them their health, their wellness, and ultimately their lives.
Yeah, I mean, that's absolutely true. And what's interesting about serving entrepreneurs in this place is many times they're running as hard as an athlete when it comes to their body, but they're doing a much longer period of time, right? They're not there for 7 or 10 years, maybe like the top pros. I mean, they're doing this for 20, 30, and sometimes 40 years, right? And so it's an interesting thing. And I feel like health is a prerequisite in a lot of ways to really being able to be mega successful and creating a huge impact, right? Because if your body won't allow you to do it, how are you going to put in the time? How are you going to show up with the energy? How are you going to be able to expend that effort to be your best consistently? And that's what greatness requires, right? It's not what you do sometimes, what you do all the time. And so I think it's so important what you're doing, helping people to optimize that so that they can show up as the best version of themselves in order to start showing up for other people, right? So I love it. Talk to me a little bit about your time in the NHL, right? So you're dealing with these professional athletes, right? Some of the greatest athletes on the planet Earth. Okay, what did you learn from that experience? What are some of the takeaways that you got being around those people, watching how they function, What caused them to win? What caused them to lose? What were the differences between the high performers and the people who were good but not great?
So the first thing that I learned right off the hop, and I knew this going in because I played at a high level myself and kind of going through this journey, but they are exactly like you and I. They are just people. They are not superhuman. They are not special. There's nothing that is different between a professional athlete and you. No difference. The only thing that allows them to do that is they've dedicated themselves to a craft and been so specific and so focused and in many ways addicted to that craft, obsessed with that craft to make it work. Once they've got there, the thing that separated the good from the great and the great from the best is their dedication to the details and their willingness to be specific to what they needed and not worry about what everybody else was doing. I can give you a couple examples. Had the luxury of working with 3 Hall of Fame NHL athletes who will step into the Hall of Fame. One was Sidney Crosby, another was being around Austin Matthews, and another was being around Jonathan Toews. All will be in the Hall of Fame. They're all still have amazing careers right now. And the uniqueness of all 3 of those is not one of them had the same in-season routine. Not one of them had the same off-season routine. Not one of them did the same nutritional things. Not one of them did the same pregame. They were all different. And you'd think about it, well, isn't that a little bit, doesn't that take a lot of time? Doesn't that take a lot of effort? Doesn't that take a lot of intentionality? And the answer is yes. And that was literally my job and other people similar to me's job is making sure that they could identify what had to happen in each one of their bodies. What were their strengths? What were their weaknesses? What were their lifestyles like? What were they genetically predisposed to? What did they have happening cellularly within their body that we needed to change, that we needed to adjust, that we needed to improve capacities on? And ultimately built those plans so that they could go and realize the potential and consistency day in and day out that they were looking for. And I think oftentimes in this health and wellness space, we just paint with this large brush and say, oh, I'm going to take protein after my workout and sit in my red light and my sauna and do cold plunges like everybody else. And I'm all of a sudden going to be a high-performing person. But yet we don't realize that they're not just random acts. They're not just random things that we're doing that are getting these people, and I'm going to withhold the word athlete here for a reason. They're not just, they don't just become these high-performing people by accident. It takes extreme intentionality because as much as they are pros, whoever you are listening to this, are a pro in your own right. Are you a professional dad? Are you a professional mom? Are you a professional bus driver? Are you a professional banker? Are you a professional financial advisor? Are you a professional real estate agent? Are you a professional entrepreneur? You are meant to be God-given world class at something, and that is your level of pro. Just a different arena.
That's so good. As you were talking about that, I thought, greatness does not stay in its own lane, right? Greatness is in all the lanes in your life. You're not going to be really great at one thing and then not take care of your health or not take care of your family life or not take care of your spiritual well-being and be great for long. You might touch greatness, but you're not going to keep greatness. And you're definitely not going to elevate to a level where that becomes a dominant thing in your life, right? Because they're all interconnected. How we do one thing is how we do all things, right, at some level. And so I'm sure there are people listening, they're like, well, I'm not an NHL player. Why do I need to care about my health at that level? It does sound like a lot, and I would second exactly what you're saying. You are great at something. You are called to be world-class at something. You are called to be a difference maker at something, and you could choose to show up to that half full, 3/4 full, or all the way full, and you can choose to do that every day or some days or or few days. It's your choice. But how you show up is going to determine how you show out. So I love that. Here's another thing that I love about what you said. So you said all three of those Hall of Famers, they had very, very different routines. They had very different diets. They had very different exercise regimens. I think there's a key in there that I want to dive into a little bit, Justin, because I think we have guru-itis out there. You know what I mean? Like there's this TikToker and this guy, and they give these truths, and there are truths, there are principles to success, there are ways that things work, but I sort of equate it to like, look, if you're trying to drive to LA, going west is great as long as you're not in Seattle. If you're in Seattle, you'll be in the ocean. You've got to know where you are, where you're starting from, and then where you're going to figure out the right path. And everybody's path is going to be different based on where they are now. We're not all starting at the same place. We don't all metabolize the same way like you're talking about. And I think so many people get caught in that trap of like, no, I need to do it this way, I need to do it that way. And they never dive into who they are and what they need and create a plan that is specific to optimizing them. They're always trying to work somebody else's plan, right? Trying to get somebody else's results. And you're not supposed to work their plan and get their results. You're supposed to work your plan and get your results because you're the only one that can do it, right? That God didn't need two of them. He'd have made them. They'd have had twins. He needed them and you. And so, man, I tell me what you think about that. Dive a little bit deeper into being able to have an understanding of yourself, who you are, where you are, what you need, and then a plan in place to be able to act on those things. Let's talk about that, and then I want to wrap something around that in a minute.
It's a really great analogy, and I've often used other ones, but I actually might switch over to that one because it was really good. But I want to paint that picture for you guys as an audience again. Is if Ian is starting in Dallas and I'm starting in Seattle, I'm going south and he's going west and slightly north. So if we both were going to do the exact same thing, neither of us would get to our end destination, which is LA, which is where we're trying to go. And in coming back to this concept of what you're trying to do from and we're talking about this in the health and wellness and health optimization space. Okay. And the reason we have to go over to this is greatness is a blessing. And oftentimes what we forget is blessings are heavy. Getting the house is amazing, but paying the mortgage is a burden. Having children is a blessing, but getting up at 2 a.m. to feed them constantly and is a burden. Getting the business is a blessing. Having business growth is a blessing, but then the pressures and the management of people and teams is a burden. And if we are not ready to handle the burdens that are coming our way, we are not ready to handle the blessings. And God knows that. Because if we got everything that we asked for today, it would crush us. And he's not one to set us up for failure. And so the reason we come back to this is that we have a responsibility to not only ourselves, but to our mission of what we're trying to accomplish, that we get super detailed, focused, and intentional about what our body and minds need in order to be ready to handle the blessings and burdens that are about to be placed on us in order to execute on what that God-given mission is.
Yeah, that's so good. And, I can hear people saying, well, that's cool, but these are NHL players and they're paying somebody like you with all this knowledge and expertise. It must be nice. But the truth is that's what a coach's job is, right? Like you're coaching in the space of nutrition and wellness and physical wholeness, right? And then transcending that into performance in other areas. But the truth is that's what a coach does. A coach knows the lay of the land and knows you and can create this sort of plan and process that is unique to you. It's not drive west. It's take the I-5 all the way south until you get here and then make a left, right? And so, I think it needs to be said, like that's the power of having coaches. These are some of the best athletes in the world. You were a great athlete yourself, but not at that level, right? But yet you have the ability to take a high performer and make them perform even better, right? To elongate the ability to perform at that level. And so anybody it's so funny, you know, I meet these people. I had a guy yesterday like, hey, I want to be mentored by you, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, hey, jump in this course, crickets, right? It's like, okay, well, look, if you're unwilling to get the help of people who can create those plans, you're not really serious about getting to where you want to go, right? Like, it's just not going to happen. Talk to me about Own It. Where did that come from? What's the idea behind it? What's the energy going on there? Because I think that ties into like, hey, look, I want to get somewhere. I need to move heaven and earth to figure out how to do it, including if I need to get coaches, courses, mentors, whatever I need to be a part of to be able to get myself to that place of peak performance. Talk to me a little bit about Own It, if you would.
So before I exited the NHL in 2019, 2020, I felt that my only value was having that 3-letter league attached to my name. And a lot of it was about ego and status, about being in the league. And that was where I found a lot of my purpose and my mission. And for years, I would have people come to me suffering from the same thing: fatigue, mental brain fog, inability to chronic sicknesses, all of these things. And I would know how to help them. It's just that I wouldn't have the time, I wouldn't have the bandwidth to be able to do that. And it continued to hurt me. And it wasn't until I saw my parents go through it and really just said, you know what, I'm going to take the exact same approach, the exact same process that I do with my NHL guys and help them, and saw their lives transform, that I was like, you know what, I have to step away from where I am. I have to go and now make this available to millions of people. And it was at that point that it just transcended the way that we were able to work. It transcended the impact that we were able to have. And you're no longer helping 26 men who are playing a sport, but you're helping hundreds of thousands of people who are thus impacting thousands of people through their businesses. And that is an exponential return on those that you're reaching and those that you're helping and those that you're giving. And so what it came down to was the technologies in this space, so the wearables, whether it be Whoop, whether it be Aura, whether it be all these things that are talking about helping in health and wellness, they're just giving you more data. They're giving you data on sleep, the 4 stages of sleep: light sleep, slow wave sleep, REM sleep, wake cycles. They're giving you HRV data, heart rate variability. They're giving you resting heart rate data. They're giving you body temperature data. They're giving you different components on stress and strain and max heart rate, resting heart rate. The normal person has no idea what that stuff is. They have no idea what to do with it. They have no idea how to implement it. They have no idea which direction to go and which direction it's pointing them. And so what we've been able to do is we've been able to literally bring people in, get them super educated on what their information means, what action steps, what habits to align with, so that it will give them, their bodies, the best ability to recover, the best ability to get the deepest quality of sleep, the best ability to have countless and endless and boundless energy, to have peak vitality, to have mental acuity that doesn't wane by 2:00 in the afternoon, and giving them this strategy so that they can now go and implement it themselves. And go and and literally have their blueprint for them, so that they know, hey, this is the action steps that I take that are attuned to my body, that are attuned to what my body's communicating to me day in and day out. And so that as my body adapts, basically as I start driving towards LA and there's a road closure or there's a bridge that's out or there's something else, things that happen in our lives that come up that don't allow you to get the best night's sleep, that or travel or all of these things, you know how to redirect yourself. You know how to move through that. You know how to continue to repattern so that you can have the best outcomes for you as an individual. And we continue to be able to layer on and go deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper down to the genetic level, down to the cellular level, down to the gut biome at level. Like all of these bases is where we can go, but at the highest level, it's still personalized to you. It's still focused on what you need. It's still attentive to you as a person, because every single person is different, and we help you own that different.
Yeah, that's so interesting. You know, I was just actually talking with a friend of mine literally like 2 days ago. He's getting ready for a physique competition. He decided he's always been into weightlifting, but he decided he was just going to go and professionally compete for fun, right? And I'm like, well, that's a bizarre definition of fun, but God bless you, right? And so he's eating like 1,400 calories, and he's had one cheat meal in the last 10 weeks, and his show's next week, right? And he's talking about exactly what he's doing. And it was fascinating to me because he was telling me the same thing that you're telling me. He's like, listen, everybody's body's different. Like, my coach had to work with me to figure out what my body responds to, what it cuts, what it withholds, what it builds with. He said, I do well on carbs, but we've all heard like, hey, you should eat a lot of carbs and all that. And like, that's his whole diet is carbs and protein, right? Because that's what he does well. And it's so interesting to go back to that idea that like, you've got to be able to have that level of insight about you and how you are if you want to perform at the highest levels. And most of the people listening are entrepreneurs. And one of the things that I've always told the people that I've had the privilege of leading is if you treat your business like a garage sale, it's going to pay you like a garage sale, right? Okay. If you treat it like a job, it's going to pay you like a job. If you treat it like a professional athlete, it's going to pay you like a professional athlete. And quite literally, that's what we're talking about here. Like, you're taking the science that you learned with professional athletes, and you're bringing that into the realm of business, into the realm of home life, into the realm for people who say, hey, I want to treat myself in that way so that I get paid in that way, so that I have those sorts of results in my life. So I think that it's absolutely amazing. Going back,
I think, Ian, I'll add one thing to that.
Yeah.
And that doesn't require you to put the time in the gym like a professional athlete. That's not what we're talking about here. We're not talking about turning you into a professional athlete. We're talking about treating your body and mind like a professional athlete.
Yeah.
What I mean by that is using the strategies, the systems, and the information, because at the end of the day, professional athletes are just human beings. That's it. And you are just a human being. You are the exact same as them. That's why I made that so clear at the beginning, is that we're not wanting you to have the power and the strength and the endurance of a professional athlete. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about allowing us to have the information that we have on a professional athlete so we can help make the decisions the same way we do with that athlete as we do for you, so you can have the boundless energy, you can have the energy resistance, you can have the vitality, and you can have the quality of sleep and recovery that they require as well.
It's about optimizing so that you can crush it on whatever field you're playing on, period.
Exactly.
Right? Like, that's it. And I love that you brought that up, because that's where I was going. You talked about these people aren't any different. And I think one of the biggest lies that I've seen, and I continue to see as I deal with entrepreneurs, I've dealt with hundreds of thousands of them over the last decade, is that somehow these people who win or play at ultra high levels, whether it's professional sports or in business or in the arts or anything where you can be great, people think, well, there's something different about them. They're not like me. There's something that they have that I don't have. And you said, look, these people are just the same as you and I, except they've decided to make a total commitment to focusing on one area. And so that leads me back to the old nature versus nurture, right? What part of this is really being at a peak performance level is something that's inborn, good genetics, versus something you learn and you build? What would you say in your experience now, looking at professional athletes for a long time and also entrepreneurs and leaders, in the business community? What's the balance there? Is there a balance?
To be honest with you, I'm just going to come out and say it. It's 100% learned. And I can say that with full confidence because there are, and I'll speak on both terms, like worked with thousands of athletes, worked with thousands of entrepreneurs. And the uniqueness is that even the greatest athletes have had to learn what their bodies need in order to play at that high level. Same thing with entrepreneurs. Your entrepreneurs may realize a certain level of business success doing whatever it is that they want, but they've given themselves now a ceiling at which they can hit. And the moment you take that ceiling off because they've been able to now learn what their bodies need and require, not only do they feel and perform better, but the results in which they garner now take them from good to great, great to best. And it is simply a learned skill of understanding what you need and what your body's requiring. It's available to everybody.
And I think that also crosses over into the ideas of skill sets and mindsets themselves, right? Like the ability to know who you are, how you are, what you want, why you want it. That's like mentally is the equivalent of sort of knowing these things about your body, right? So that you fuel yourself the right way. And I think that's just so powerful. One of the things that I've always taught people, Justin, I call it the theory of tens. And basically it says, if you want to be great at something, highly paid, world renowned, you got to be a 10. On a scale of 1 to 10, you got to be a 10. And then even then, sometimes being a 10 is not enough, right? We all know great musicians that are a 10, but they don't have a huge record deal. They're not world famous. Why? Well, maybe they're missing the charisma. Maybe their music's 2 years early or 2 years late. Maybe they don't have the right people. And I've often looked at athletes and said, some of this is learnable and some of it's got to be, if I'm 5'3" and look like how I look, I'm probably not going to make it in the NBA. You know what I mean? No matter how good I get at this. Talk to me about that. Do you feel like when it comes to health and wellness and physically at these high levels, do you feel like any of it is inborn, or you feel like it's still like, hey, look, you can overcome just about anything you want if you focus on it at a great enough level?
You can overcome anything. If there's something, as long as you're not wanting to be a horse jockey and you're 6'9", or you're wanting to be an NBA player and you're 4'1", you can there's nothing physically holding you back, which is why when I say that you are a pro because there's nothing in the entrepreneurial world that's holding you back. Oh, you grew up without a father? There's a million people who have grown up without fathers and become amazing entrepreneurs. Oh, you grew up in a foster home. There's a million people who have become amazing entrepreneurs and become amazing people who are adopted. Oh, you don't have any arms or legs. There's a million people who have made a big impact in this world who don't have any arms or legs. There is nothing that you're born with. There's nothing that comes into your life. There's nothing comes into your purview that doesn't allow you to succeed, that doesn't allow you to be able to tap into what is God-given, to what your body is able. As long as there's breath in your lungs and your heart is beating, you have the ability to show up. There's 4 things that your body has to have to create life: air, food, water, and sleep. Your body cannot function without any of those 4. And that is what we focus on in getting dialed into what you require and what your body is saying amongst those 4 things. There's certain data points, there's certain information, there's certain things that we can look at that will help us understand what your body needs in order not to just survive, but ultimately to thrive and get through this in a really powerful way so that you can take what's inside and ultimately realize it at a higher level.
Yeah, that's so good. So here's what I've heard, right? We need to know ourselves. We need to know our makeup. We need to know what we're like, how we're motivated. We need to know these things physically. We need to know them mentally. And then we need a plan. We need to have a plan that serves and accentuates those things instead of, just some blanket garbage advice from some guru that may have nothing to do with what you need where you are, right? So we got to have a plan. And it would help to have a coach that can understand who you are, understand the plan, help put it together. So you're not taking all the time in the world to be able to do that. And it's true for health. It's true for business. It's true for high performance. It's true for all of those things. I mean, I think that's the framework, right? Like, know yourself, have a plan, and have somebody to help you bring those 2 things together and to execute on that. So Justin, it's been amazing hanging out with you today. Thank you so much for your time. I know all the listeners have gotten a lot out of it. Where do they connect with you further? How do they reach you? How do they engage in some more of your resources or find out more about performing at their peak performance level?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a whole bunch of information on our website. You go to ownitcoaching.com. You can find everything that you're going to need there. And then I'm super active on social media, engaging with the audience in different ways. And that's at Justin Roth. So you won't have to spell out my whole last name. It's just at Justin Roth. Yeah.
Well, Justin, thank you so much for your expertise, for your passion, and for your leadership in this area of health and well-being. And it's an honor to have you on. and spending a little bit of time with you today. Thank you again so much. And thank you again to all of you who've tuned in to another episode of the Byproduct Podcast. God bless you all. Until next time, we'll see you soon.